Sorry, I think she
We're
said
all-
we're
Well,
ready.
that's-
No, we're ready. She had a question raised.
You have to wait for the TV on. We're good to go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Albany 4th District Commission Finance Committee meeting of July 30th. My name is Joe Coffey. I am the commissioner. With me is George S. Stephens, commissioner, and Commissioner Cinquanti. Commissioner Taglianto is excused. We have multiple members of the 4th District Commission senior staff with us. With that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting of April 23rd.
Make a motion.
I'm not sufficient. So am I allowed to vote, or do you
No,
need
you
a
don't-
motion?
you
in a
don't vote.
second?
We start the meeting with
I know.
questions. Geez, George,
I apologize, just wanna make sure I'm
I
following the
just
rules.
wanted to try to have an easy meeting. So the next big item on our agenda is a review of the second quarter 2025 finances, and with that is Ms. Studo.
Okay. In your packet, you have the preliminary report through June 30th, 2025. We start looking at the operating revenue. There's been minor fluctuations from our previous month forecast. We're projected to be approximately $286,000 over budget for our operating income at the end of the year, and the majority of $190,000 is our administrative revenue from the public-private partnership on the 80 acres. Moving to the operating expenses, our overall operating expenses are projected to be under budget by $240,000 at the end of the year. And so I would like to mention at this time, though, we have some expenses coming up in the range of $50,000 to $75,000, I would say, from the our friends at Customs is requiring us to add cameras, lights, poles on the Rensselaer side, and also we are now responsible for their providing them with computers and annual subscriptions and maintenance on those computers. And I expect for those expenses to be in the next quarter. I think in the next quarter we'll see those expenses coming. So that will have an effect on our budget, but the team does a very good job of keeping within constraints, so we could expect to break even at the end of the year with the last line.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was looking, there's nothing to date, that's just the
Nothing to
budget.
date, yeah. So,
So you're within the contingencies?
yes.
And if we take out the public-private administrative revenue, we're pretty much operating, our operations revenue is at budget.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
We had a small fluctuation in our projection and depreciation expenses, and that was due to a correction for the first 6 months of the year. We don't expect to be majorly over budget in depreciation or any other operating income or expenses. We do have a major increase in the capital grant revenue, which is over what was budgeted and what I previously projected. That is the ESD 2016 grant, which we just received $3.2 million on, which when we did our budget last year, we weren't sure that that was going to happen this year, but it did, so that money came in. So our grant revenue is over what was expected for the year.
Nice work, everyone who pushed that over the finish line.
Yes, thank you to
That was
everybody
not
that
always
helped
easy,
us.
so good job.
So we do also, I have, my forecast is even higher because we have another ESD grant, the FAST New York, which is $18 million, which we
18.9.
18, which in speaking I'm currently working with ESD on how to go about being reimbursed, and it appears they're looking at our total project of $170 million. So when this gets through all of the processes and approvals with ESD, I can submit invoices up to date, so I could get about $6 million right off the bat. So that is the hope there. It's been approved by their board, gone out to public comment, and is going back to their board again. So hopefully we will receive that. We've been awarded it, but hopefully it will go through.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Trust me.
Yes. So that's our capital grant revenue in a nutshell.
Good.
So and then also we have the public partnership revenue and expenses that is above budget because we had expected to be done with that phase at the end of last year, but it is continuing, thank goodness. So. Any questions or concerns on the revenue and expenses?
No.
We also have the statement of net position, otherwise known as the balance sheet. We have about $5 million more in cash than we were at this time last year, and that has to do with the agreement with Equinor that we brokered at the end of last year, beginning of this year. That cash in hand. And our liabilities, our capital leases have decreased by $1.3 million from last year. We've almost paid off all the Bank of America capital leases. We have about $370,000 left at the end of June. Our deferred revenue is is $10 million from where it was last year. Again, that goes back to the closeout of the Equinor agreement. And accounts payable. We are currently at $2.5 million in excess revenue over expenses, which is a $3 million fluctuation from where we were last year at this time.
Is the capital lease, is that for the crane or is that for the
It's for the crane and other equipment, yes. It's collateralized for those leases.
Any other questions on the statement of position?
No. Georgia, we have paid off the bonds on the coin reserve has been paid off. I did want to address the maritime data comparisons, and this information is actually at the end of the board meeting documents. But I just wanted to. I meant to mention that. So our year-to-date ships and barges, right now we're at 17 for the year, which is down from 24 this time period in 2024, but it's consistent to 2023 was, we were at 16 in June. The next, so that's the first pie chart. The next graph shows each year where the volume, the greatest volume of the ships and barges have come in. And then on the bottom of that page is the longshore hours. Currently to date we're at 14,296 longshore hours, which is down just over 3,000 from prior year. That is a 5-year low going back to 2020. The next page of information has the commodity comparisons. So the top graph just shows the 2024-2025 by commodity. The blue is 2024 and the orange is 2025. And then the pie charts show the percentages each year of the commodities. So we've had a swing from 24 to 25. 2024 wheat was our highest commodity, and currently this year it's scrap iron.
What inferences are we drawing from this information?
That we need more commerce to be coming through the port. But it does seem that the team is doing their best to switch gears to different commodities when, like, so this year, but we do have.
So I guess, yeah, I guess my takeaway is, from a business development and marketing is that it might be helpful to have kind of an outline of how we're making that approach, maybe for future board sessions.
We'll work with Logitech too.
I think it's fair to say too that we are putting Logitech to the test to bring more business as part of their operating agreement. It's a partnership, and it can't all be on us to have our company out there developing all this business when they've got ports across the country.
But we also have our contacts with our associations.
Yeah, we do.
The other business things, and I think everybody's facing a challenging world trade and commerce environment at this point with uncertainty with tariffs, et cetera. So everybody's competing for the same piece. So everybody is upping our game, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, no, and as we up our game, though, we expect them to up theirs also.
We're also in a unique spot right now where in the next month or so we'll see a lot of ship activity from GE Cargo. We'll have a couple of photos on that just because it's interesting. GE has been manufacturing, excuse me, onshore wind components that are at the south end of the terminal now that will be going out to Australia through shipping in the next, starting in the next month. So that will also show movement. But we've had a couple of different meetings and conversations with Logitech about a couple of different commodity attempts.
We can defer a lot of that conversation to the board meeting.
Sure.
I think at this point, really keep kind of focus on our finance committee agenda at this point. That makes sense. You guys okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Chris? On the finance?
No, the other thing Rich and the team and I are starting to work on the budget for 2026.
I was going to ask the question.
So, we'll be presenting the draft in September, so, we hope to meet with, members of the board prior to the September meeting so that we can present it, the budget, and answer any questions prior to that. So when we meet in August, I'll try to ask for dates and meet in September for a pre-meeting.
Any opportunity to get some of the draft documents to us before we meet, just for off-site review? That's helpful to digest some of the content and formulate some questions in advance for discussion.
That was all I had.
Budget comes out quick every year, doesn't it?
Yes.
They just finished it,
Yes.
right?
It's good. Here we go again next year. Any other questions or business for the finance committee? Okay, our next meeting of the finance committee's regular meeting is scheduled for September 24th. If there is no further business, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion second. We adjourn. I should actually make the motion.
Do it.
For my board skills.
All right, well, it's me, right?
Yes.
Moving officially into the meeting. Okay, so I'd like to officially open the July 30th Albany Port District Commission meeting. My name is Georgette Steffens, I'm the chair of the board, and
Joe Coffey, Commissioner.
Michael Sinquani, Commissioner.
Richard Hendrick, CEO.
Patrick Jordan, General Counsel.
Christine Studo, CFO.
Megan Bailey, Chief Commerce Officer.
Angela, Administrative Assistant.
Mark and David.
Cheryl Stock, Director of Security. Roddy Yegan, Senior Construction Project Manager.
Penny Bavor, Director of External Affairs.
John Shiley, Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'll take, everyone received a copy of the minutes from the previous meeting. If there's no changes or edits, I will take a motion to approve.
Make a motion. Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay,
No public comment.
no public, at the meeting, so we will, move on. We just had our finance committee meeting, right before this meeting. Summary, do you want to give Joe about the meeting, or just turn it over to Christine?
I'll turn over to Christine. I think she could probably hit the salient points in a much more efficient manner than I have.
So written down.
That too.
So we reviewed the balance sheet income statement during the finance committee meeting. Our operating revenue and expenses are both in line with what we had projected previously. Our year-end projection, we do expect to be over by $70,000 in our net income. Our grant revenue has increased significantly year-to-date, and our projection for the end of the year, we see $3.25 million from ESD on our 2016 grant, and we are in the process of getting approved for the FAST New York grant, which will be close to $19 million, and we do expect our first reimbursement for that to happen in the second or third quarter of this year. The major fluctuation on the balance sheet is due to the cash influx in deferred revenue we received in the final agreement with Equitable.
Wonderful, thank you, Christine. Rich, I'll turn it over to you for your report.
Thank you, first of all, and I apologize for not doing it earlier, but as we went around the room, Markham Daly is here. He's working as an intern with us, keying on cybersecurity, which I believe I may have mentioned last month. Markham just completed an internship with the Port of Tampa Bay, working on their cyber issues. He's a student at State University College of Emergency Preparedness, and he's been doing a great job here. He's spent a couple weeks, but it's been nonstop. So,
Markham, is this your first time interning here?
Yeah.
So your brother has been here? Yeah.
Yeah.
In a different capacity.
Yeah, with the maintenance crew, right? Yeah, wonderful, well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Recently, as a result of the Dolly incident at the Key Bridge, New York State has stood up a committee to assess the risks of bridge strikes in the Hudson River, as well as down in Port of New York on the southway through New Jersey. But the committee that we have, we've met a couple times now, but Cheryl and I are on that, along with representatives from the Coast Guard, the New York State Bridge Authority, Port of Clemens, Department of State, and several other Department of Transportation. We're looking at key responses to incidents and how fast we can respond to them to hopefully prevent a catastrophic event such as, and as we discuss these things, it's amazing, but we brought up one that what was the lessons that we learned, and how fast was the response to the most recent incident on Hudson River, where a barge slammed into a lighthouse. And the sheriff of Greene County was adamant about it. There was no response because it was a hit and run. So one of the lessons we learned is maybe if we have better tracking along the river, hopefully with the Bridge Authority, we'll be able to spot these things in real time, and at least find the culprit. And there was quite a bit of damage to that, so we need to learn those lessons as we're moving along. We're looking at also putting monitors, on the, wall of the bridges. But one of them in concern is the Castleton, Thruway Bridge. It's one of the lowest ones along the way. So that if we have, high water flow, obviously your air drift is reduced, and we, want to prevent bridge strikes, just as the state is trying to do it with truck strikes on the roads. So it'll be a long process, and I think at the end, hopefully, the cost of the, implementing the changes won't drive the project, down. We're working with, the AAPA, on a bipartisan free space legislation that was, introduced last month. As you heard Christine say, U.S. Customs is mandating that we spend money on cameras, on buying them computers, and a few other things. The Free Space Act is addressing those type of issues where they're pushing that the funds that U.S. Customs receives for inspecting the ship crews and the cargo would go to offset those costs rather than putting it on the back of the individual ports. So hopefully, because that's a bipartisan issue, it'll move through both houses and get a signature, so enacted into law. And I sent a note back on, I think it was the 18th of July. We had an incident here with an accident where two members of the longshoremen were injured. Happy to say that both are on the road to recovery. The one gentleman showed up here on Monday morning following the accident, and the other one has been moved to rehab at local facilities. So they're both making great strides.
Did that prompt a OSHA inspection?
Yes, they were here within a couple hours.
So they were both longshoremen who were operating?
Yeah, they were longshoremen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's about it for now.
Any questions for me? Okay, Penny?
Thank you, yes. So my report is in the packet, including clips for the month of June. The focus on the traditional public relations was on both the Green Marine recertification as well as Rich and Christine accepting board positions with a number of nonprofit and industrial organizations. In addition, we're doing our outreach to the community. We met the new city neighborhood specialist, Shanique Alexander, so it was great to have her come down and do a tour and sort of become more familiar with who we are and what we are. Coming up, we'll be looking at having a tenant event. We're looking forward to working with GE on hosting an event in relation to the project that Megan was talking about. And then you'll see an iteration of a Port Industry Day announcement soon, so coming at you. We had a great time, as Rick said. We've been working a lot with AAPA on the comm side, as well as it was an honor to be able to award the Lighthouse, or to judge the Lighthouse Awards. We did submit a Lighthouse Award, and so we'll hear about that in October, so keep your fingers crossed. And also we did do another welcome video, which I thank again the staff for their enthusiasm in participating. We were able to actually go out on the Spirit of Albany, so that was great. So on the web and social media updates, nice to see that our overall users are up by 34.5% to close to 5,500. Our engagement rate is up as well. Industry standard is 2 to 5 minutes, so we're not there, but we're going to keep pushing to get there. As far as countries that have been visiting, India and Canada are down some, but Germany, Ireland, and Saudi Arabia are up, although that isn't reflected here. But, and one of the other things is organic search is down, but interestingly, direct search is up. So direct search is when someone types in portobalbany.us versus going through Google or the search engine. So that's nice that people are paying attention and sort of finding us directly. Across our social media, you see the numbers sort of up and down, sort of mixed depending on what you're looking at. But I will say the undisputed winner in all of our content is port related and again related to the GE project. Moving big cargo captures eyeballs. People are intrigued, you know, and so that's nice to be able to not only showcase our own internal footage and coverage from good perspectives, but also being able to share out and amplify from various partners. Dagan Trucking, including Springer Welding. So that's nice to be able to capitalize on that. Also, just to let you know, I did get a note from Reverend Kate earlier, and she just wanted me to pass along. She and Lowell have church things going on, so they weren't able to attend, but they wanted everyone to know about they're having their summer open house on August 24th, Sundays on Sunday. So it's an ice cream social. And so we'll make sure that everyone has that date and time. And then also Lowell was elected last week to the North American Maritime Association Board of Directors.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, so that's a nice recognition of the work that they're doing here.
Exciting. Congratulations to him.
Yes.
Any questions for Penn? Thank you, Penn.
Thank you.
And thank you for providing the comparison data.
Yes. It is cool getting to look more at more data and start to see trends and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, so we'll continue the conversation that we had started in the finance about you know, do we continue to grow maritime activity here? So moving on.
Yeah, there is a report in the packet related to that Logistec provided related to last month's activity and then plans for next month's activity with 4 ships planned, including 2 related to that GE export that I had mentioned. I see that as a big deal related to the GE manufacturing and movement of goods, and I think a lot of people in the capital region also see that as a big deal. We've recently participated in a couple of Capital Region Transportation Committee conversations related to the movement of that cargo. Some of that is getting bigger and more challenging to do on the roads, and that you know has implications for where and how they do business. We want to make sure that they keep manufacturing that in the region and are able to get it to this port so we can get it out to the world. A trip that for one of us might take 20 minutes takes that cargo in some cases 3 days, and so that can be challenging. So there's expectation that there might be some funding put toward excuse me, the feasibility of where and how that movement takes place, and protecting the ability to have that logistics occur here in the region. We're seeing some competition from other states in the United States that do some of that manufacturing. So there's a big group including folks from Albany County and Schenectady County, as well as transportation and economic development and others involved in that conversation, including our team was there, Logistec was there, as well as some of the major haulers, including Dagan, of course, which is moving some. We've also been pursuing the designation of the foreign trade zone as their, you know, to Joe's earlier point related to, you know, there's competition. We see other ports are looking at that FTZ designation. Also, GE has it at their facility, so pursuing how that could be impactful. We've also communicated with Logistec about that they're pushing forward their terminals that have that designation for their business development and commercial development. So we don't want to be left behind on that. Some of that is true tariff benefit, and some of that is simply potentially optics and marketing. But we're pursuing that with the Capital Region planning organization that can help as the MPO on that. We've also, you know, as I started to mention, conversations with Logistec on how to drum up business for maritime activity. They've been looking at additional scrap movement, which is, for us on the Albany side, has some, you know, significant considerations that we need to look at. So they've been exploring if there's technology ways that they could do that without damaging any of the new docks. But if that's a potential cargo increase, that's something that they're taking a look at, and some other concepts. There's also a conference on break bulk in September that we've been talking about how, you know, collaboration on that might be helpful. I think, you know, your point earlier about doing a business development, you know, highlight on this at a next board meeting, I think that's a great idea, and we can organize that. So I blended a little bit there on our report,
Keep it
and,
going.
but I think in light of the finance report and some of the notes, I'm actually gonna defer to Roddy first on the construction update and work scope, and then I'll take it back for a couple.
Sorry, before we go there, so we're lagging a little bit in, the first 6 months. So this tells us what next month looks like, but it doesn't tell us what they think will happen from now until the end of the year. Are they anticipating to be where they projected at the beginning of the year? Are they thinking we'll be below, we'll be above? What are they saying?
My sense had been, and I don't know if Rich, if you have, you know, any input on this, but my sense had been that they thought that they would be where they were last year. But I would like to get an update on that.
Sorry, Rodney, go
No,
ahead.
no problem. Thank you, Commissioners. Thanks, Megan. So as an extension of the financials that Christine had been presenting, I just wanted to make note that we're going through some contract closeout balancing with the existing CMAR contract. So getting towards the end of that work. In fact, yesterday we finished the signalization work over at the Corning Hill River Road. That was one of the last actual install scopes we had to do. The rest of that contract work is just receipt of procured electrical equipment through the rest of the year. So we're looking at all the other costs in the contract, general conditions, scope deductions or credit items, and I expect that we'll have some further improvement on the financials that Christine shared in her projections, because it'll reduce essentially our expected outlay. So good news on that front, and then also closing up that work has been obviously a long time coming, so nice to be crossing that milestone. And then looking forward as we're getting into the shovel-ready phase through the ESD grant work, expecting one of the first procurements to happen in the next month. We're looking to put out the substation install solicitation this month and have a recommendation for award for this board's consideration at next month's board meeting. So that would be the first work package that we're looking to procure. After that, we have at least 2 more that we would do in the months following that. So that work on the substation we're hoping to commence in October, and kind of work against the National Grid schedule. They're looking to start their work, National Grid's crews, in August to start doing some of the transmission tap work, and we'd kind of be working against what's happening on the electrical utility side to have our substation be able to receive power from the transmission work. Timing wise, we're looking at end of spring 26 for having power available at the substation. So that's my update overall. It's a bit briefer, but so expect that in the next few months we'll have a couple different recommendations for low bidders to bring to you.
Going back on a couple other updates, finance report also talked about grant activity. We are still waiting on 2 outstanding applications that we have submitted. Both are at the state level. One is with New York State DOT. Again, on that PFRAP, we don't expect that until early fall, but that was for an application just around $10 million related to maritime terminal equipment. And the second one that we are still waiting for is also from New York State through NYSERDA, that's related to port infrastructure. That was $100 million grant application related to potential wharf, construction at the expansion. We've not heard much on that second one, so I can't tell you an expected date of when we may hear. The only thing we've heard is that they're not canceling it, if that makes sense, in the context of the overall conversation related to offshore wind. That grant source was related to port infrastructure serving offshore wind, but they have also had an RFI subsequent that gave long and short-term potential uses related to it. We get the sense that they're still looking at the overall projection and how New York State wants to invest to continue to be prepared in the industry. But related to federal policies, it's, a factor of how they want to invest.
New York State's looking at a $7 billion budget deficit next year. How might that impact some of these NYSERDA and other related initiatives?
It's interesting to see how it would affect non-NYSERDA economic development funding. I think NYSERDA as an authority has a little bit of this is my feedback. NYSERDA has a little bit of a bubble around it related to the way that the funds come into that organization and the way that they can serve their mission. Some of the others, we're eager to see how the regional council, for example, continues to be funded or not, and also how New York State DOT funds or not. But I think related to infrastructure, you still have to have that preparedness and that safety, and that's what that DOT infrastructure funding has always been. We've been through some rough years, and that regional council funding still prevails. So I expect it will still be there, but I think the competition might get harder. That's a good question. A couple other things we wanted to mention. I did mention about the foreign trade zone designation. We were excited about the RFEI, the request for expression of interest related to the expansion, is closed. We did get submissions related to that. Due to competition and some confidentiality, we'll expand a little bit more. We're requesting to expand a little bit more in executive session on that, but we are still in the process of review on that and don't have a recommendation at this point. We've had a lot of activity in and around the port in the past couple months that we thought visuals might be beneficial. I think we've heard from the board before about seeing some of the things that we're talking about. So if you can indulge us in a couple of slides related to recent activity. We've talked about we saw it as a major activity of the drill that occurred at the Port of Albany and in the region. And this was just some of the visuals related to that. Was that a 3-day session, Cheryl? One of the days?
A little bit, 2 of them here.
Okay. Next one is, we continue to do regional tours. This was a senior group that came to the port to do a tour. We'll keep going. I think Penny had announced previously there was a Green Marine recertification, which was a pretty extensive effort by the team in getting that recertification and continue to up-level. This is the cargo at the south end of the terminal. It's probably grown since that image was taken. It may be worth you taking a look. It's just interesting to see the hubs and the pieces that are coming through and that will be going out. All in total, there's an expectation of 200 pieces of cargo that will be associated with that overall project. It has been mentioned that in 27 and in 29, there could be additional projects similar to this. It was also interesting, our engineer, our maritime engineer that we worked with on our expansion, also is doing the work on the port terminals in Australia where they're going in, so that was interesting to us. And the image on the left just reflects those transportation related and logistics related meetings and conversations that we're having about the movement of these pieces. there's, you know, an impact on how the roads are planned, how the bridges are planned, and what can be transported and how, and what impact that has on these goods. These aren't the most dynamic pictures, but we wanted to reflect that construction continues to happen in the terminal. This is some of the funding through the existing PFRAP projects. That's included work at sheds 3, 4, and 5. The heavy rail work will occur. The terminal bidding is expected on that in the fall.
Sure. So I had the opportunity to attend the New York League of Conservation Voters Offshore Wind Capital Region Stakeholder Roundtable. They had asked the port to participate in this roundtable discussion. I had the ability to present to the group that was there. There were a handful of elected officials, including Senator Fahey, Senator McDonald, and Legislator Miller, as well as a representative from the new Assemblywoman's office, who's the yes, right now. So it was a great crowd, definitely pointed crowd. This, I think, was an important step in making sure that the offshore wind conversation is continuing in the capital region. I did have the ability to showcase the Port of Albany video that we partnered with Labella. It was really appropriate, considering the environmental focus of that video with this conservation group. So they all really enjoyed the video. Then we went into a panel discussion where I was joined with Peter Lyon from NYSERDA, Alicia Artesa from NIOA, and Mike Lyons from the Building Trades Union up here in the capital region. So it was a pretty dynamic conversation. We got a couple of great questions from the audience. And then we broke out to a workshop where I was able to lead a small group in a workshop. So it was a pretty eventful afternoon. And like I said, I think it's great that the New York League of Conservation Voters continue to focus on offshore wind, because I was able to participate in a webinar that NYSERDA hosted it was a kind of like an unbiased third party who is very familiar with the offshore wind industry throughout the globe. And as far as the rest of the world's concerned, they're moving full force forward. So Brazil's getting into the offshore wind game, Japan's getting into the offshore wind game. There's a lot of, I think, countries that are capitalizing on the fact that the US is not in it. Therefore, a lot of the, those potentially bottleneck components are not as bottlenecked as they once were going to be. So, it's unfortunately, it seems like it could end up having more negative impact if and when we do get back into the offshore wind realm, as far as getting those components going, if we don't start now and maybe onshoring some of them. So,
and we're also participating with AAPA still has an offshore wind subcommittee related to this, where ports around the country are participating. And the conversations are interesting about short and long-term strategy, including ports that are now serving some of the projects, what they'll do after that, if they'll still continue to do strategy that would allow them to do that in the future or not. So participating in these conversations as well as looking at other diversification.
That was a pretty good event. And go to the next one. So this was, I was recently invited to participate in the Bethlehem Chamber of Commerce's Foundation's Workforce Development Committee. So this was a effort that's being run by the director or executive director, president of the Bethlehem Chamber of Commerce. There's about, I think, 14 to 20 representatives within the Bethlehem community that are serving on this committee. And it's really just to kind of help, I guess, amplify the voice of that community in the region's workforce development, because there's such a vast mixture of workforce development organizations and institutions and efforts. So we're dialing in on Bethlehem with this particular one, and we've held our first meeting at Plug Power, which was a greatly attended meeting, and looking forward to helping the chamber kind of understand the capacities and the different opportunities that are here at the port, especially with our 24 tenants. So it's.
And there's also an intersection between that and the workforce development and or training conversations that we've had with the city of Albany, particularly the South End, but also as training was gearing up related to offshore wind, some of those graduates or trainees have gone to find jobs in other non-wind activity, including Plug Power, and including other companies. So so intersecting those conversations has been, helpful. We've got a couple more we'll zip through, including other, we had a teacher ambassador, group come here in association with Department of Labor. That included folks from, schools all over the region. We'll keep going.
Rich and I had the opportunity to sit down with the chief officer over at Career Jam. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Career Jam, but they've started here in Saratoga County about a decade or so ago. They host these events for middle schoolers and high school students. They host a massive event with over 2,000 students at the Hudson Valley campus. And then they also host an event at Siena College for the high school students. They're looking to get more involved with the port, and the port's looking to hopefully support them in their efforts. They have these great kind of career fairs that the 7th and 8th graders go to, and then 11th and 12th graders go to, that Capital District region school districts participate in the fall and in the spring. And you know, we're hoping to envision a corridor for the Port of Albany district, and then having our tenants that make up that footprint involved in the career fair. Those are partners, because we're aware Labella participates in that as well, and they've been a great partner of ours for the Beacon Island project. So.
We also hosted a focus group. NYSERDA is updating their offshore wind master plan. So we didn't host the meeting, but we hosted the group that was doing this, and this was related to communicating with disadvantaged communities and environmental justice communities. And so they wanted to have an upstate location. They did 2 other meetings around the state, mostly downstate, and invited groups. We were cautious. We feel the conversation is important, but we're cautious related to raising expectations. And while it was a relatively small group, it was a long conversation. I think it was useful. And I think it was good for both sides to hear out each other and what the intentions and what the desires are. Oh, and we just wanted to put picture to, you know, Penny has announced related to the boards and highlights that some of the staff have done related to industry participation. We feel that, you know, everybody on the port team is trying to participate at different levels in the industry, and these were some pretty cool highlights, including Rich and Christine's announcement and Pat's presentation at a leadership summit with AAPA. And we wanted to highlight, I don't know if you want to say this or you want me to. I think it's really cool. This is one highlight, and the last one and this one also highlights, you know, the port's social media on some of the news that we've been doing. But as we know, we're in business in Albany and in Rensselaer and in Greenbush and in Bethlehem in terms of the port's designation. We were invited to and agreed to participate in a highlight of the city of Rensselaer, including a quarter page ad that port did here related to doing business in Rensselaer. We do actually have a business development interest in conversation that is ongoing at that property in Rensselaer that we've met with the city of Rensselaer related to. We're hopeful that that could go to next steps, but that will be important to see progress on that or not. I think that might be it. Thanks for indulging that. I do have 2 items for executive session.
Any questions for Megan and the team on those items? Okay, so we have a resolution to support the USS Slater night that they hold every year, usually in October. It's a sponsorship that we have done in the past, and it aligns with our it no action was taken during executive session. And our next, Port District Commission meeting is Wednesday, August 27th. It will start right at noon, as we have no committee meetings, that day. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.